Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
I am the Divine Prince, Emmecca, Pan-African Spiritualist, Practitioner, Author, Advisor, Elagoon, Oloye, Hoodoo, Obeya, Bokur. I reside in this beautiful and legendary, historic Treme, New Orleans, Louisiana. So join me as I share food, music, culture, tradition, the rhythms, and the flavor of New Orleans voodoo. Respect the voodoo.
When your belly hurt, we didn't run to no doctor. We went to the kitchen. We boiled ginger root, sipped on peppermint tea, mixed baking soda with water to calm the gas. Bay leaf in hot water, sip it slow. Castor oil rubbed warm on the stomach, working from the outside in. If it was real bad, we ate pickled cabbage or chow chow to feed the gut. Fermented food was medicine before the world knew the word probiotics. Apple cider vinegar, clabber milk, relics of a time when we made our own healing. Our people knew the gut held more than food. It held feeling, balance, and spirit. And they kept it right with herbs, roots, and wisdom passed mouth to mouth, hand to hand. That's how we stayed well, not because we had science, but because we had sense, and we had each other.
Greetings and salutations, honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Voodoo Hoodoo 101. Powered by, sponsored by, promoted by NOIVD New Orleans International Voodoo Day. We certainly continue to invite you to join us. 2026 New Orleans International Voodoo Day promises an inspiring and immersive experience with a diverse lineup of engaging events. Highlights include an educational symposium featuring distinguished speakers from around the world, including a delegation of scholars and spiritual leaders from Benin and Haiti, as well as art exhibitions showcasing voodoo-inspired works by talented local and international artists. The event will also feature a children's program and an Afro-ecological exhibit exploring the sacred nature of plants in voodoo, their role in spiritual practices, and their connection to our ancestors. The weekend will culminate in a ceremonial procession to 9 significant sites throughout the city, locations where the enslaved were brought ashore, held, auctioned, and where they later found community. This journey will begin as the transatlantic slave route at New Orleans marker on the moonwalk at the river and will conclude with a traditional voodoo ceremony in Congo Square. Additionally, visitors can participate in interactive workshops, community discussions, and opportunities to connect with practitioners and cultural experts. This multifaceted celebration offers something for everyone, creating a meaningful space to honor the past, to celebrate the present, and to inspire the future. And we invite you to continue to join us at www.vodouday.org. Again, that's www.vodouday.org, voodooday.org, for more information and coming updates about this and other powerful events. Historically, hoodoo and conjure is not identified as such until the early 20th century, by which time the beliefs of practitioners had melded and developed into a unique practice. And through the oppression of mainstream religious and political groups, the traditions of voodoo and its European counterparts were forged underground through intimidation and even legal prosecution. It may have been said that hoodoo and conjure emerged as a means through which to deny any association with voodoo. The truth is, it had been developing during the preceding centuries. It was only identified as a separate practice during this time period. And while traditional folk beliefs of slaves and of former slaves were almost always dismissed as devourly among whites, they were often looked upon by blacks as well in a derogatory manner. Henry Bibb, a former slave, wrote of his experience with conjure in attempt to win the affections of a certain young lady. And when his attempts to win her through charms failed, he referred to conjure as, and I quote, the superstitious notions of the great masses of Southern slaves. It is given to them by tradition and can never be erased, while the doors of education are bolted and barred from them. Unquote. The citation of conjure culture in African American society is one that is often used as a mean to assert white supremacy as well. White people often assumed incorrectly that conjure served as an example of black savagery and inferiority. Traditional religious practices like those in hoodoo conjure are also often cited as mere footnotes in the descriptions of how far people, in particular people of African descent, have come in the development of their spiritual and religious convictions. The supposed decline of magical religious practice as a sign of advancement to the supposedly civilized forms of religion. And this misunderstanding of folk religious practices like hoodoo and conjure is not confined to the opinions of common people, of course, and is often reflected in the academic community as well. While the study of folk traditions like hoodoo and conjure has become more respectful and professional in recent times, the development of the study of folk religions reflects the perceptions held by people of dominant American culture. In the early stages of what became known as anthropology, scholars often approached the traditions of people they perceived as primitive along developmental lines. The progression of societies from quote unquote fetishism to the supposedly more developed systems of religious monotheism. Even scholarly works that deal directly with American folk religions like hoodoo are often written from biased and often racist perspectives. The tendency of referring to African traditional folk practices as savage or superstitious is not an exclusively white tendency in the scholarly world, however. In his work, The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois, refers to conjure as that vein of vague superstition which characterized the unlettered Negro even today. While people almost always recognize in the present day that such conceptions are misguided, one cannot understand the development of the study of traditional religions without them. The scholars and thinkers who have studied said traditions, even from an often misinformed perspective, still laid the foundation for the scholarly understanding of them. And while people see slanted viewpoints of religious study as detrimental to acceptance in current times, without the endeavors of people seeking to validate their own position of superiority in the past, scholars would have little information about the practices of certain religions. And what one must endeavor to do in studying such things as American folk religion today is to gather information from older sources for descriptive and informative purposes concerning its practice. The often racist and condescending overtones of many works must be ignored in order to gather a more inclusive understanding of traditions like hoodoo and conjure. And in spite of often antagonistic approaches taken to the study of folk religious practices like hoodoo and conjure. An underlying fascination with conjure culture has waxed and waned over the entire span of American history. Jeffrey Anderson identifies three particular periods of interest to be from 1880 to 1900, from 1920 to 1940, and 1970 to the present. And each of these periods of interest reflect the social political atmosphere of the nation. The first as the period of Reconstruction after the Civil War, in which freedom were no longer forced by slaveholders to keep their religious traditions. Freedmen were no longer forced by slaveholders to keep their folk religious traditions in the shadow, so to speak, thus making them more apparent to whites. The massive influx of Haitian immigrants into the southern states during and after the Haitian Revolution and led to the establishment of New Orleans as the Mecca of American hoodoo culture. And during the period between 1920 and the 1940s, Americans were engulfed in the Great Depression, and Jim Crow laws served to further oppress and separate African Americans. Hoodoo and culture is often described by scholars as a mechanism of control, and in periods of oppression and upheaval, will certainly bring said practices into public view as they are more prevalent. The present interest in hoodoo and culture may stem from both the second wave of Haitian immigration into the United States due to political upheaval in the Caribbean and the development of modern scholastic endeavors to view traditional religious practices as equals to the great religions of the world. And this document serves to examine both the cross cultural influences of magical religious practices in the United States. However, the term America will typically be used since hoodoo and culture developed in many ways before there was a United States. And the role that folk religious traditions like hoodoo and conjure played during the era of slavery, as well as during the turn of the 19th century. In more recent times, there has also been the tendency to consider the practice of hoodoo conjure as a particular hindrance in the understanding of voodoo in America. Rod Davis, the author of American Voodoo, Journey into a Hidden World, outlines his initial disdain for, but eventual acceptance of hoodoo culture, and initially referring to hoodoo culture as the petty hexing involved in voodoo. He saw it as something that academics refer to as simulacrum, 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 or a contrived version of voodoo masquerading as the real thing. It was only later through his immersions into Southern culture, conjure culture, that he came to accept that ranting against hoodoo was ranting against history. For some, like Davis, who sought to explore the voodoo religion in America, particularly in the South, hoodoo conjure stood as an example of how the theology of voodoo was largely stamped out, but the oppression of slavery and by the ignorance and fear of whites, but the practice of voodoo remained as hoodoo culture. The historical attention to hoodoo culture is one that is considerably lacking due in part to this opinion. The subsequent lack of documentation regarding the subject requires one to rely heavily on a relatively few number of resources. Fortunately, the most recent incarnation of the study of traditional religions and religious practices are much more inclusive and encompassing of the spiritual and pragmatic aspects of hoodoo culture. The recent research of Jeffrey Anderson, whose book Conjure in African American Society, published in 2005, serves as a comprehensive examination of conjure culture, voodoo culture essentially, and its importance in African American, Southern, and American culture and history. Anderson utilizes the works of Harry Middleton Hyatt, who was one of the first scholars to explore conjure culture through his 5-volume work, Hoodoo, Conjuration, Witchcraft, Root Work, published from 1970 to 1978. And since only 600 copies were printed, the utilization of this text is very difficult. Thus, Anderson's book serves as a method through which the author has been able to access other content. And Anderson is also one of the few scholars who has managed to collect information concerning the interplay between the traditions of the Native Americans with those of African Americans. His book is a central source in the chapter concerning said relations, as well as the thesis of this document as a whole. And we will, of course, continue this topic and this document in future incarnations of the podcast. I want to thank Nina Lloyd, Lydia Martin, Daniel Neal, Ray Alexander, and S. Marie for continuing to join us daily, weeknights, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time for this live podcast. I want to greet the beloved Elder Reggie, here known as Green Soap, and invite you to open your mic and come on in. And I want to start, Elder Reggie, with a question. I was
Mm-hmm.
asked today if you sold green soap or if you offered green soap, and if that was a part of your platform, part of your store, part of your business. They also, again, noted that you don't speak enough about your house. And so we want you to talk a little bit more about that tonight as well.
Okay, okay. Greeting, Divine Prince. Thanks for the platform. Greeting, Sister Toni and Brother Joshua when he makes it around. I'm willing to open to talk, but I want to make just a small, quick announcement, if it's okay. And it's referring to tomorrow. The Source Homeful presents Hurricane Turning Ceremony. It's a public prayer ceremony dedicated to Our Lady of Prompt Succor in Esley Dantor. Date July 19, 2025. Time 7 p.m. Location 3319 Rosalie Alley, New Orleans, Louisiana. If anyone is open and in the city proper who can make it out, this is going to be an event where we come with collective prayer to try to get some of this bad weather to head in another direction. Not that we want to put it on the heads of other people. We just can't have it on our head at this time and moment. Thanks for allowing me to do that, Divine Prince. Now, I would like to say Shrine of the White Cloth, it's a small temple that I have. Before I went into Shrine of the White Cloth, I was peddling green soap. Green soap is a soap that I make using moringa. I also use neem, and there was another herb that I was using because everyone knew of black soap anywhere and everywhere you go. And moringa was a hot topic about 10 years ago. So Spirit led me to put it in a soap form. And so I do have it. I just don't promote it, but I do have green soap. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate that. And the more we know, the better we can support.
Mm-hmm.
Greetings,
Mm-hmm.
Sister Toni, Queen Mother. Come on in.
Greetings, everyone in the listening audience, Elder Reggie, and of course, Divine Prince. Elder Reggie, is the green soap very similar to the black soap and way of caring for your skin?
I would say similar in this fashion. Black soap is made from the husk of cocoa, the real cocoa leaf, the real cocoa
Yeah.
plant, and some shea butter and a few other elements you see them make it. But the green soap, we're really working with neem, NEEM, and moringa. Now both of those have healing properties for the internal body, but in the soap format, It's to take care of the outer skin. But of course, I do prayers over it, and so that give it a spiritual component also. So it's a little bit different.
It sounds very interesting, more interesting than the black soap, as you say. And
Yeah.
you said the Shrine of the White Cloth is small. Do y'all recruit people, or is just like family and members that have been in it for a year, or do you want to recruit other people to come into the church?
And how
Yes,
do
I'm
people support and buy the green soap?
yes, I'm open to that. But what happened? I've been around this medicine for a long time, and I had my ups and downs over the years. And it was the constant rejection, neglection from people in the community that wind up had me drawing more inward. And so I only was just feeling comfortable with people who accepted what I had to offer. I just didn't feel good proselytizing, going out there like that, because it's just something that's just not in my DNA. But anyway, with that being said, as people gravitated toward me, then I opened up toward them and showed them what I have. So now I have about 12 people that comes out to the temple, and they're open to what I have to share from all the travels and all the things I've been exposed to. But that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's open. It's open. I used to have a meetup. I done the whole gamut of putting it out there over the years, and just nobody would show up. So me being me kind of drew me back within my shell.
Well, I
But
can understand that.
yes,
Yeah, I
yeah.
understand too, but just in all fairness and just encouragement, you've got to keep putting it out there. If
Hmm.
I waited, for a response from the chat or for a
Yeah.
response, to some of these podcasts, I would have stopped doing this the year after Hurricane Katrina. So
Wow.
you've
That
got to keep
reminds- yeah,
pushing
go
it. You
ahead.
got to keep saying it. You got to keep demonstrating it. And as Grandma used to say, a closed mouth don't get fed. So if people don't know where you are or how to reach you, they assume you're not doing anything. They assume you have nothing to offer, and they, slowly move on to that, to the next location. So we definitely want to encourage you to speak about the Shrine of the White Cloth more. Certainly, we
Mhm.
appreciate your support for many of the events that you and I participate in, off lines, such as with the source. But this is the place to promote self. This is a place to promote your spiritual work to a larger audience, a larger community, as we continue to promote International New Orleans Voodoo Day.
I say we give thanks for that, and we will do it as events come up. Because just 2 days ago, I had an event at Audubon Park. I didn't feel comfortable sharing it, but as you give me the pad to do it, the next event we have, I will open it up to the public. We done a ceremony out at Audubon Park. Nice contingent of people showed up. We done it, and we moved on from it. But I will open it up more, and I appreciate that, Divine Prince.
Mhm.
I do.
Ashe.
I say yes.
Yeah, that would be very interesting and to move it forward. I think right now, and I'm gonna say it. I know people might get tired of hearing about the movie Sinners, but Sinners has opened up a lot of avenues and interests to a whole new generation. And I
Mm,
think because of the character Annie and her hoodoo and the mojo bag scenes, people became interested in it that normally just didn't really think about it. They knew about it, but they didn't think about it.
mm,
And it's
mm,
opening up a whole new. I see it on the different platforms where people are speaking on it. They still speaking a lot on what they getting out of it, and how it has inspired them. Um, to look into things, and also some disappointments people have had already in looking in it. And my advice to them is move on to the next one if you're still interested. I mean,
Mm.
you're not going to like every teacher. And it's not elementary school. You ain't got to deal with that teacher. If you don't like them, move on to the next one.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but it has opened up a lot of people to hoodoo,
Mm-hmm.
particularly. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people seem to know, the difference, that the voodoo take years of, instruction and work and time and needing a teacher and stuff. They see that you need one for hoodoo also, but they see it as more simpler.
Right, Sister Tony. See, you raised a good point. And now what I'll do is, for me, coming out of the New Orleans Spiritual Church, they had to move their derivative of voodoo into that church system due to white supremacy, the harassment of the police, and some black people who had just turned their backs on their traditional medicine. So what the church did, it came in, it opened up a traditional church service. But throughout the service, there was things added, such as candle work you could get done, spirit work that you could get done, um, healing work, healing by touch. And so it moved from Divine Prince did a good thing of the time frame from 1920 up until 2005 with Katrina. It was not an underground method of healing for the community. It was there. It's just that it didn't proselytize too much itself, but it was there. But with me coming up in that system, I kind of followed that footstep somewhat as I morphed into traveling mode, longing mode. I still was kind of following that model because of the ostracism from the police department and people not trusting each other like that. So it became quiet, it became closed. So now I see some people on the internet saying hoodoo is a closed tradition, voodoo is a closed tradition. I I don't know if that's true or not. Is it closed? Because what they was using in the 1920s or in the 1890s was the things that they had available to them at that time. Here in
Yeah.
2025, there are more things available to us, but the methodology to deliver it and use it should still be the same as if you are in 1890. And meaning that is you do stuff with ethics, you do things with pride, and you do things wanting the best for your client, not trying to flip them out of a dollar, but really trying to provide healing for them. And if you use those methodologies and techniques, then you are right on par with our ancestors.
Yeah, and I agree. One example of having different things now to make it easier, in the early 1900s and in the 1800s and on, they used urine to clean
Mhm.
the front porch and the steps with, but what they was getting out of it was the ammonia in the urine. So now we have ammonia and we don't have to use urine.
That's right.
I was like, oh, 10, 11 years old, and my mama still was collecting urine from us overnight to clean her porch with.
And
Hmm.
I would have to argue that it's indeed still a closed system. The most common
Okay.
refrain that I get is my grandmama and them did it, but they didn't talk about it. They didn't teach it. They didn't tell us anything. And so the science behind the practice, the mysteries behind the practice, is absolutely a coveted practice and traditions well into the early 80s. I remember going through my mother's mother's things, who was a hairstylist, who, made her transition in 2000. in finding little bundles of hair put together with little, the black bobby pins and almost like little crosses with little twirls of hair around each set of bobby pins. And of course, I asked my mama first, whose hair is this? What's this about? And of course, she did not know. But in the going through my grandmother's items, my cousins, my grandmother's sister's child, we found supplies, floor washes,
Mm-hmm.
lucky charms, and whatnot. Many of the things that you would find in a typical commercial botanica in the 70s and the 80s. But I can go back to my childhood in the late 60s and remember my grandmother maintaining, before her health began to fail, a very immaculate garden of herbs and plants and roots and things that she would often use. And sometimes these things were, masked behind tradition, behind holidays. Well, what do you do for New Year's Eve? You cook, a pot of black eyed peas and hog maws, and these things became tradition and practices that many families still do today, but are completely cut off from the why and the how and how these things came about. I also believe that it still remains a closed practice, in
Mm-hmm.
that the ego of the average human is just so out of control today. We want control, we want dominance, we want power, we want what we don't work for. We want things to come quick and to come easy. We want to block the haters and block the jealous and block the enemy. And I just don't phantom our ancestors spending a whole lot of energy, in that regard, where survival was priority. Healing and health was often priority, where there were no other resources in place. So I believe the practice still continues to be closed, and we will see that more and more as the older folk continue to make their transition and move forward, and the newer generations that are now filling the gap of understanding about these practices and these sciences, who are going through the books, who are going through the archives, who are pulling out, the nuggets and the jewels, with the use of technology and AA and the like, to expose what is still hidden and a mystery about these practices and these traditions. I think if it was just, you know, an open practice, we would look a lot like the modern church.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Divine Prince, that's well said. And what I like to bring back right quick when Sister Toni touched up on the urine or the ammonia. When when the when the Africans started arriving to the New World, they did bring spiritual warfare with them. The shooting of invisible arrows, because there was ethnic tribal warfare, there was inter-tribal warfare, and this warfare was not being fought with guns and knives. It was really being fought with words and deeds toward each other. And the truth to the matter, some of it was effective, if it was placebo affected or just magical affected. There was people that was killed. There was people that lost what they had. There was people that lost husbands and wives due to other people doing what we would call malevolent work toward them. And so, with
Mhm.
that being said, even on the plantation during slavery, people felt they had to do something to protect themselves. Yes, from the slave master, white supremacy in those systems, but also against some of their fellow men and women that was in the field with them. For some reason, I don't have an answer. People use jealousy. They use all kind of small isms to find fault with others, then try to destroy them. And so hoodoo, voodoo, the ATRs are systems to help protect you against these, I just call them miscellaneous arrows.
Yes, because that's what my mama told me whenever I questioned her. It's all about protecting you and yours.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about protection. It's not about doing stuff to people. It's about protecting yourself because somebody might be wanting to do something for you. They've been we just keep changing the words, but they've been haters since Cain and Abel.
Yes, beautiful. Yes, yes.
So, like they say, they smile in your face and all the time they're trying to take your place. So it was used basically for protection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. It was used for protection because you would think, being amongst kinfolks, that you would automatically be in a safety zone, but that just was not the case.
No, it wasn't. And I could see on a plantation where the slaves would want protection from other slaves, such as the slave driver, that
Mm-hmm.
black slave that was the pet of the overseer and the master, that was harder on the slaves than even the overseer was.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, like you say, even amongst their own, they needed to protect them. There's always some woman probably jealous that you have the man she won't,
Mm-hmm.
even back in slavery days.
Yes. But Sister Toni, even right now in 2025, you could be walking to your vehicle, walking to get a bus or whatever, and someone to come up, accost you, try to rob you, hurt you, or even take your life. You minding your own business. Even today, we are
Oh,
just
yes.
not safe. We are just not. I hate to put it that way. And we are living in trial times, and it don't hurt to have an advantage of knowing who do voodoo, the ATRs, or any system that's for your greater good. Because people will hurt you while you minding your own business.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they will, definitely. And I call those people possessed by demons.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah.
Possessed by demons. They got all kind of demons out there. To me, drug addiction is a demon that has taken over people.
Mm-hmm.
Alcoholism is a demon.
Mm-hmm.
The green-eyed monster, jealousy. Well, he a monster, to me that translates to demon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate. There's just not a lot of institution that's helping individuals to deal with the day-to-day threats on their person, on their spiritual life, even their finances. We that's why I keep saying the spiritual background and the spirituality we are presenting today with the National New Orleans Voodoo is something. It's a help. It's a help. It's a organization, it's a group, it's temples, it's shrines where one who feel lost or alone can come and learn some things to help protect themselves in this world right now because we are living in trial times on a lot of different fronts. Right quick, I'll add one more thing as we continue to build. I do make offerings and libation to other world beings. These other world beings are constantly accosting us also. They like to mess with us. They are called spiritual spouses, spiritual husbands, spiritual wives. In the early 1900s, they was called Hank. In Jamaica, they was called Duppies. And today we call it ghosts with Annabelle. But these negative and otherworld forces are just as real as we are. And we
Yeah.
have to really understand that. Because I was watching a video a couple of weeks ago and it was dealing with the Skinwalker Ranch. I think somewhere out in Midwest America. But that's what they call a cryptic, a otherworld being that come in this dimension to harass us. And so having these medicines and methodologies and technologies still help us today.
Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Very much. And you got to be on your protect, because I mean, you got to be your own spiritual police.
Yes.
You got to be your own spiritual police. I'm very familiar with the idea of skinwalkers. You know, some people look at that, and yes, they are werewolves and they are vampires, but not like Hollywood show us. But it's that same mentality, that same energy that we have to protect ourselves from. You know, but as we come to a close, because our time is out, I want to turn it over to Elder Reggie so he can close us out.
Yes. Thank you, Sister Toni. Thank you, Divine Prince, for a great show. But once again, we're open up tomorrow for the hurricane turnaround. And I want to give that time and location again, please. Date, July 19, 2025. Time, 7 p.m. Location, 3319 Rosalie Alley. That's in the Bywater area, for those who in the local New Orleans area. And it's the hurricane turnaround ceremony. We're working as a collective to send that negative hurricane energy away from the city of New Orleans. City of New Orleans have not really recovered from Hurricane Katrina. And we really don't need no weather like that just to tear us even farther down. But with that, I said, I give thanks again to the collective audience in the chat room. We read the chat. We appreciate you. And Ray Alexander, I will chat back with you and talk with you. But with that being said, thanks again, Divine Prince, Sister Toni, and Brother Joshua, who's always with us in spirit if he's not here physically. We say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Have a great weekend. Ashe.
Ashe.
For cramps, for cycles, for balance, we had remedies. Before prescriptions, before diagnosis, we used teas, oils, and roots passed down through whispers. Black cohosh, one of the strongest. A hormone regulator, pain reliever, antispasmodic. But we respected it. Never took it more than 7 days. Never while pregnant. Catnip, not just for cats. We used it for cramp. 2 to 4 cups a day. It worked. Chasterberry. Some called it Vitex. That one came later. Evening primrose used now, not then. We stuck to what we had, what worked. Sassafras bark boiled with stick cinnamon. It wasn't just about stopping pain. It was about staying in rhythm with the body, honoring the changes, surviving the shifts. 1 tablespoon of flaxseed oil a day helped ease the storm of menopause. We didn't call it menopause. We called it the change. We didn't have luxury. We had each other, and we had the land. These remedies gave us relief, respect, resilience, and that's why
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this white in my DNA, yeah, I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables. put these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees. It's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner. Oh, do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Meet you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit West. He looks me in my eye and says, "You only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise." Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. We are the children of the ancestors that weren't